Welcome to the Putback. I'm Ian Begley here with my guy, Max. Max, how are you, man?
I'm doing well, Ian. I got my Mitchell Robinson on. I want to see this guy get some more minutes next year. But first, let's start off with the baseline. We got a coaching search going on. Tom Thibodeau right now is the favorite, but I hear some other guy might be getting some interest.
Yeah, there is some interest in Kenny Atkinson over there. I know that there is legitimate support among some in the organization for Atkinson. I think part of that is because of what Atkinson has done recently and over the course of his career in developing younger players. Look at what he did with the Nets, Karis LeVert, Joe Harris, Spencer Dinwiddie. He was also an assistant in New York, worked closely with Jeremy Lin, and he was down in Atlanta where he worked with a lot of young players. So I think that's part of the reason why Atkinson is getting support from some corners of the organization, but I still think that Tom Thibodeau is the odds-on favorite.
I'm hearing Kenny Atkinson is developing all these young guys. We got RJ, we got Mitch, we got Iggy. Maybe he'll come up. Wooten, he's locked down in the D League. Don't you think maybe Atkinson might have that better resume, or do you think Thibodeau's still the answer?
Yeah, I think if you look at the past few years, Atkinson would have the leg up when it comes to player development, but I think Thibodeau has his own player development success stories to tell, particularly from his Chicago days. Jimmy Butler, Taj Gibson. So it's not like he's deficient in player development. He's just more closely associated, I think, with veteran teams that made deep runs into the playoffs.
We did the whole veteran thing last year. I don't want to really see Taj get some more minutes over Mitch anymore. The guy's a stud. I'm also tired of seeing the Heat getting these big-name free agents, too.
One other thing with the Knicks is I'm not totally convinced that they go fully young here. I would expect that they at least consider the idea of adding some veterans to this roster. And then if you look at the roster complexion and there's veterans on this roster that are going to get significant minutes, maybe it makes sense to go with a coach like Thibodeau.
Hey Ian, just wondering if you're looking to add a stretch four, building around guys like RJ and Mitch. You know, you gotta space the floor. Big guy who can knock down shots like maybe Davis Bertans or maybe bring Gallo back home. I'm coming home. There's a 7'3" size hole in my heart, and it's a really big hole to fill.
I don't think you're the only Knicks fan that's still a little bit emotional about the departure of Kristaps Porzingis. Adding a big who can knock shots down is a part of the Knicks to-do list this offseason, whether it's through the draft or free agency. And I think one of the guys you mentioned, Danilo Gallinari, could be a fit there. I'm not sure about Davis Bertans because I think he's going to be pretty expensive, and I think the Wizards are going to do everything they can to retain him. Another guy I'd look at is a Christian Wood from Detroit. I know some people in the front office before Leon Rose got here have been enamored with his talent and his ceiling going forward here. And also I wouldn't rule out Carmelo Anthony returning because of his ties to Knicks president Leon Rose and the idea that the Knicks last summer were very much willing to re-sign Anthony if they had added 2 stars in free agency.
Ian's guest this week is Matt Spenley of SNY and formerly of the Knicks Wall.
I just heard the fan question about the stretch four, the Knicks needing a guy that can shoot from the perimeter that's a big man. Did I miss something, or didn't they just have a guy like that? His name is Kristaps Porzingis, and they traded him away.
Indeed they did, and that's part of the reason why Steve Mills is no longer team president.
You know, looking back on the trade, it's interesting to think about the time period of him coming off the ACL injury, because in 2019, this is a guy as he was getting healthy, averaging 17 a game, he's shooting 40% from the floor, kind of getting some nervous looks from Mavs fans, and all of a sudden he's averaging over 20 a game, he's shooting 44%, 35 from 3. He just needed some time to get his legs under him. It's obvious that the Knicks knew what they had and they still gave him away.
If you talk to people around the league, they wonder why the Knicks were so quick to pull the trigger here. I get it. Porzingis asked for a trade. You also had him as a restricted free agent, and it would have been a big gamble for him to go ahead and take that qualifying offer in that next season and go into the following summer as a free agent because of the injury situation and many other variables. So, you know, here we are a couple years later, and it's clear that they didn't get the return in players that they were hoping for. We'll see how they do in the draft with these Mavs picks, and we'll see if they ultimately turn that cap space that they created into something meaningful. But right now, it seems like a pretty lopsided deal.
It looks worse every day that passes. Wesley Matthews, 1 game as a Knick legend. Dennis Smith Jr., just a horrific season. I don't think these draft picks are going to amount to a lot because of one man, and his name is Luka Doncic. And Porzingis, obviously, as his sidekick. I always thought that they should view those picks as more of assets than actual draft picks because I think they're going to end up being so late in the draft.
Yeah, and I think that's part of their thinking too, the idea that they do have these 7 first-rounders in the next 4 drafts, and if there is the opportunity to put together a trade package for a young, disgruntled star, I think that's why some people over there feel like they'd be in good position to do so.
Is there any way that the Knicks can come out of this trade feeling good about it? They have Bobby Portis, not the favorite player of a lot of Knicks fans, but was a significantly more efficient and effective player under Mike Miller. Is there any way that they could bring him back next year on that $15.5 million team option?
Other teams would be surprised if that happened. That's a pretty big number, and it's a big number for somebody who, maybe doesn't project as a starter, projects as coming off your bench. And it's especially a big number for a team that, is not a Bobby Portis away from competing for a trip to the finals. So you're right, Portis was better under Miller, but I think that, given the landscape of this Knicks roster, where the team is in the rebuilding process, people would be stunned if they picked up that option.
Yo, Beggs, as a Knicks fan, I'm all about reliving the good times, and I want to go back to winning as much as the next guy, but Mike Woodson, are we serious? We're never going to move forward if the philosophy is to bring back dudes we've already axed, give them the keys to an even worse car than when they left. It's time to look towards the future elsewhere. Are we bringing them back, or can we shave that goatee for good?
I wouldn't take out the beard trimmer just yet. Mike Woodson's held in high regard by important people in the organization for the work he did as Knicks head coach. Remember, he's the only Knicks coach to lead the franchise to a playoff series win in the last 20 years, and that matters to people in the organization. So I still think Tom Thibodeau is the odds-on favorite, but I wouldn't rule anyone out that the Knicks are going to interview because things can change. I think even if the Knicks go in a different direction for head coach, I think Mike Woodson would be given the opportunity, if he wanted it, to be an assistant on that head coach's staff because of how much respect that people over there still have for Woodson.
Spin cycle. I don't know if you guys knew this, but Julius Randle attended Harvard Business School. Even more random, he went with the most eclectic group of people you could possibly imagine, including Kevin Love, Chip and Joanna Gaines, and Sierra.
I'm embarrassed to say that I don't know many people in that picture. My pop culture knowledge is very, very diminished because I have 2 young kids. All I do is watch cartoons, but good for Julius.
Ian, I can promise you that most of the cartoons you watch are probably better than NCIS Los Angeles, because I don't know who Eric Christian Olsen is. I had to look this man up. I just looked at this picture. I said, oh, there's Kevin Love, because I don't watch soccer either. How can he maximize his ROI when the Knicks ship him out of town?
Well, listen, I don't think that's it's imminent. If there's a chance to have him as a part of a package to bring back, a veteran that the Knicks have interest in trading for, or a young player, I think that's when they would consider putting him in a trade. I don't get the impression, at least, that they're out there shopping him aggressively. You look at his contract, he's guaranteed for this coming season. He's got $4 million guaranteed the following season. So for a team that's looking for some cap relief, potentially, that next summer, I think he's a pretty attractive trade chip.
Definitely don't let him dribble, though. I don't want to see him losing the ball every time. Just like, I'm in the paint, and boom, it's gone.
He put up good numbers this year, 19.5 points, 9.5 rebounds, but he doesn't necessarily impact winning. And that was a lot of the frustration from fans. So as the Knicks as an organization, how do they feel about him moving forward as a team?
People that I've spoken to about it, a handful of people to be more accurate, feel that he was miscast. They asked him to do a little bit too much. They wanted him to lead. They wanted him to play defense. They wanted him to rebound. And if you look at what he's done over the course of his career, he's scored and he's rebounded well. He hasn't been asked to lead. He hasn't been asked to make his teammates better, which is what they also wanted him to do. So Randle is a skilled player, and he can really help you win games. But if you put him in the right situation, that's going to do it for the Putback. They're Max and Matt. I'm Ian, and we'll see you next week.